big thank you to mpp.com for sponsoring this week's video. More on them later. So I did not expect that today was actually a day where I would take a photo that I'm happy about. Today I'm driving around here in Denmark in an area that I have been pushing for so long, but I'm really happy I did it today because there's a bit of like mist and mood and atmosphere in the air that, especially with this bridge here in the background, helps separating it from the background. So right now I have these birds on the water that I try to line up with the pillars of the bridge. Just before I had a couple of swans. They were gone very fast, but I actually think this here works out really, really nice. And as you can probably also see, I haven't brought a whole lot of gear with me today, and that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. Light landscape photography gear and how I have come to a really nice kit that does not break my back. There are so many lorries on the bridge today. There we go. And that one, and there we go. So what I'm trying to do right now is I'm using these stones here in the foreground, and then I have the bridge there in the background. I'm placing the bridge just so that it's kind of getting framed here in the bottom by the stones. And then I'm taking 3 photos, one for the bridge, one for the far stone, and one for the near stone. And those 3 photos I then focus stack in Photoshop. And obviously, if you want to know how I edit my photos, including focus stacking, there is a link with a coupon code to save a little bit of money on my big Photoshop for landscape photographers post-processing course down in the description of this video. It is in this course where I teach you all the different editing techniques that I use to get the kind of photos that I like to look at. As mentioned, be sure to use the coupon code to save a little bit of money when you enroll. So the idea for this video comes from the fact that back in 2020 I had some severe back problems. My good friend and colleague Nigel Danson had back problems, not so much down to camera equipment. Nick Page has back problems, and I just got an email a few weeks back that Alan Wallace, the astrophotographer, he also has some back problems. And generally when it comes to us landscape photographers, we have a tendency to carry a lot of heavy weight and gear on our backs. So because of my back problems, I knew that I had to reduce the weight of my kit. I've now reached the point where I can actually have all the gear that I need for just a regular day out here in Denmark in a shoulder bag like this. One of the big experiences I got from my recent Antarctica trip was that when we were out of the ship, I generally did not need to carry a whole lot of my gear. We weren't able to put our backpacks down on the ground due to the avian flu and the fear of contamination. So everything that we took with us out of the ship was something we had to have on us. There are, of course, a lot of different solutions to that. I went with a simple shoulder bag. The brand of my shoulder bag is SP Tech. I have bought it with my own money, so it's not sponsored. Honestly, it was simply just the one that they had in the store when I came in to look at it, and it seemed to be the best. And down in this shoulder bag, I can literally have everything. So I have my camera, of course, the Sony a7R5, and right now I have equipped my 28 to 200 millimeter, so I cover a broad focal range. On top of that, I have also brought my 16 to 35 millimeter f4 PSET lens from Sony. And you can see with these 2 lenses, I cover everything from 16 to 200 millimeter in 2 small lightweight lenses. This is groundbreaking to me compared to the kit I used back in the days where I carried 3 big lenses. And because the combination of the lenses and the camera is as small as it is, I can also bring my filters. And being next to water, I generally find it to be a good idea to bring filters. And then of course also brought an extra battery. Now, I'm not saying that you should use my kit one-to-one. There are plenty of options if you're a Nikon shooter or you're a Canon shooter, Fuji shooter or something else. However, it can hopefully give you a little bit, just a little bit of inspiration and maybe foresight so you actually avoid getting back problems. And besides my regular camera setup, I of course also have my vlogging setup, which is as minimal as it has ever been. So right now I'm using the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. There are plenty of reviews on that here on YouTube. I'm very happy about mine. Actually, I have a question. Do you, the regular viewer of this channel, see a difference between, or can you spot the difference between I upgraded from the DJI Osmo Pocket 1 to the 3? I did it at some point, but I'm curious to know if you can see the difference. And to record the sound, I have my microphone right there. Now you can also see I have attached my Peak Design. Yes, I have bought a new Peak Design capture clip right here on the side. The sad truth is that the combination of my L bracket and the Peak Design capture clip doesn't really work together right now. So I will probably need to figure out and find a new L bracket for my A7R V. But yeah, I'll figure that out in the future. If you do want to mix up your kit a little bit, I would highly recommend to use MPB. MPB is a big platform where you can sell and buy used camera gear. So if you want to get rid of all your old heavy camera gear and invest in something a little bit lighter, then definitely be sure to check out mpb.com. The good thing about MPB is that they take care of the entire shipping process. It is super easy. You simply just go in on mpb.com. You put in all your camera gear you want to sell. MPB gives you a price for it. If it turns out that your gear is in better conditions, they may actually even up the price that they are willing to pay for the gear. When you've been through that process, they will take care of the shipping for you, depending on what country you're in and how that works. Another good thing about MPB is that you get 6 months warranty on the piece of gear that you're buying. The reason for this is that they want to make sure that you feel secure about getting it, and all the gear that they buy and sell on, they check for any scratches, and when they take a picture of the specific gear and put it on their homepage, you can be sure that the piece of gear that you're looking at and actually ordering is the same that they have on the page. And it's of course also much more sustainable to buy used equipment and keep using it than buying new gear and just put it in your drawer. And it's of course also important to say that it is not just cameras and lenses, but also accessories that you can buy through MPB. Get rid of the old stuff and make sure someone else can benefit from it. There are of course links to MPB down in the description of this video. Now you may ask, so Mads, what are you doing with your tripod? Well, it's actually very easy. I simply just slide it in here underneath these straps with a couple of the legs, and then I can also carry it over the shoulder here, or I just carry it by hand. Now, if I were to go out on a big hike, let's say in the Faroe Islands, I would definitely bring a backpack, because I would bring so many more accessories like a first aid kit, something to sit on that can warm my butt, and many other things like a water bottle or extra clothing. But on these days where I'm either just out exploring or I go for a morning shoot here in Denmark, I may as well bring the shoulder bag. And for the most part, I find that once I've started taking the first photo, I've attached my camera to my tripod, I don't really put the camera away. I walk around with the camera on my tripod for the rest of the day. And since I don't have a whole lot of lenses to change around, I rarely take my backpack off and change the lenses around. So there's actually no reason to bring out all that equipment when I'm actually out photographing. So you will probably see me in the future when I'm photographing here in Denmark, just wearing something that's a little bit lighter to carry around. Now, if there was ever a place in Denmark that you could call truly epic, this would be the place. However, I am going to make another video from here in the future when I'm allowed to fly the drone, which you can half of the year, just not this part of the year. One thing I did not mention before, and one thing that is super good with having a shoulder bag like this, is of course it's so much easier to get the camera in and out. This also means that I take more photos. I don't have to think about whether or not I want to take my backpack down, unzip it, take the camera out and start photographing, or I have to go back and take the filters out and so forth. I have all my camera equipment right here, and that just means it's so much easier to make the decision whether or not I want to take a photo, and in that way I'm of course not missing out on a whole lot of photos. Another thing I also forgot to mention is that besides my 28 to 200 millimeter, I of course also have my 50 to 400 millimeter. If I want to have an even further reach than 200 millimeter, that's of course the lens to take. I would probably not take both of them at once, but then I would take my 16 to 35 millimeter plus the 50 to 400 millimeter instead of the 16 to 35 millimeter and the 28 to 200 millimeter if I'm heading out. Even though the 28 to 200 millimeter is half the size and weight of the 50 to 400 millimeter, I do find that the 50 to 400 millimeter may be the one I will use the most if I'm going out for a proper morning shoot. I hope you did get some inspiration for packing light when you are out photographing. If you want to learn more about composition, Photoshop, editing, and you want to sell or buy some used camera gear, be sure to use all the links down in the description of this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.